You're listening to the Ask DroneU podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun, we're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
DroneU.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another awesome episode of Ask DroneU. My name is Paul.
And I'm Rob, and you're listening to episode number 395. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today.
Thank you so much. And you know what,
Absolutely.
Rob?
What?
I'm celebrating today.
What are you celebrating? Whoa.
That is done.
That is impressive.
That is 101 pages of study guide for the new part 107. It is done.
So 101 pages. What's the significance of 101 pages? Where did that come from? What is that?
Okay, so the FAA put out a document in an email saying, hey, this is everything that's going to be on the test. And it was a table of contents. And then that table of contents, which was one page, was broken up task by task, category by category. So it ended up being, one table of contents ends up being 20 pages of table of contents because they break it down per chapter.
Right.
And they say, you can find this information here, you can find this information here. But when you go to those places to find the information, it's almost 2,500, almost 3,000 pages of information that you're supposed to go through in order to get all the Part 107 material in one succinct place.
Well, and that just speaks to that one document, I guess, but there's also other sources that you kind of pulled into this as well.
Well, yeah, because, if you've taken an FAA test before, you can kind of understand, where they pull the information from, like what is the BS information and what's the core stuff that you really need to understand. Because some of these chapters just go on and on and on and on. So one of the things I think is a huge benefit of me taking an FAA written exam already is that I kind of have an understanding of where they pull what questions from, where they get what information from. But also, in the FAA email, they left out a lot of detail on where you could find these specific points.
Right.
And, just as an example, right, they say in there, you have to learn about CETA. And if you don't know about CETA, it could potentially be on the test and you could get a question wrong.
Sure.
Well, when they gave you the document about CETA, they say it's an AC 107-2. You should find it there. It's not in there. There's an SAFO, which is another type of FAA document. SAFO, I think it's 15010, or maybe that one's the lithium battery one. Anyway, you have to know.
Who knows?
You have to know where to find this information because there was actually a lot of missing information. So I have been scouring for 2 weeks. I have looked at every other study guide that is on the internet from there's wannabes, there's places that are trying really hard to do it right.
And doing a decent job. Mm-hmm. Give credit where credit is due.
I will say, though, there are some people who put out study guides, like this guy Josh. He put out a study guide that was better than what companies were selling for a few $100s.
Yeah.
So, and I told him, I was like, this is a good start. I said that on Facebook and I meant it.
Yeah.
And I looked at everything and I know for a fact, based off of what's out there right now, this is the most thorough. It is the most succinct. If you need to find a specific piece of information, the table of contents is actually linked. So if you're like, oh, you know what? I really need to go over what's the rule about flying beneath unmanned balloons. I can go right there and click it.
Yeah.
So, but also we're going to give you in this is a list of documents where we pulled the information. So if you're like, oh, I love how this is organized, but you're like, I just really want to see the whole document and read through it myself, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? You can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I love about what you just said is you combine two words that I think are really important to somebody who's needing to study for this test, and that is thorough and succinct.
Yeah.
Because if you can accomplish being able to define something with both of those words, then that's killing it.
Oh, I agree. And I think the way to understand succinct, too, is that there's nothing that we could add or take away to make it any better.
Yeah.
So that's why succinct, I definitely think, is the right word. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm sure you're going to...
By the way, where does somebody get this?
If they're a DroneU member, guess what?
It's included.
It's free.
That's pretty cool.
Free 99. Whatever you like, we'll do for you.
Well...
Not everything. Anyway, yeah, it is a.
Gosh.
I love those accents.
Yeah, I know.
Have you ever seen Angela Johnson do the whole?
I don't know who Angela Johnson is.
If you've got a wife.
Only if you have a wife.
Yeah, Angela Johnson, she gets her nails done, and that's where that's from.
Gotcha.
So anyway,
All right.
really funny.
Cool.
They can get this on the DroneU website, thedroneu.com.
It's not quite up there yet.
It will be. I just talked to Tim. It will be available this week.
Okay.
So if you're not a member, this is definitely the time to become a member.
Yeah, because frankly, guys, it is going to be for sale to non-members, but it's going to cost more. And that's just the way it is.
A whole lot more.
Quite a bit more.
A whole lot more. And honestly, if you don't see the value in joining the community, I'm not sure if you see the value in success, because when you have such a huge group of people that are motivated and inspired by one another, they help one another out, we're constantly learning together. You know, like that is a piece of competitive advantage that you have over your competition. And I've gained so much out of it. And I'm serious.
Right.
Like there are things that have come out of this community that I never even dreamed possible. So
yeah, it's fun.
I see the value and I don't even pay for it. So I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. No,
anyway, but anyway, let's
community.
move into today's question, which is brought to you by the DroneU membership, the 107 study guide, and people who are driven to succeed. One thing I forgot to say right before we get into the question, it is the Olympics.
Yeah.
2016 Rio has started.
I am really excited. Maybe I'm most excited because I don't have to be in Rio. Sounds a little bit scary to be there for many reasons. I hope it goes well, particularly for all the athletes, well, and for the people visiting, et cetera, et cetera.
And for the local economy.
The local economy, yeah, we want nothing but good to happen here. But as drone-related, what's going on?
DJI has put out a press release. This actually came out on Friday. You can find it on thehill.com. But DJI has actually created no-fly zones around the Olympics. I'm actually surprised they didn't do this like a month ago. But because you would have to update your firmware,
So,
I believe.
And that's cool. I'm glad DJI did that. But what about 3DR, or what about Unique, or any of the others that are there just free to fly? And
I honestly don't know about Unique. I've been trying to get a hold of our contact now for a week, and they've just kind of fallen off. So I don't know what's going on over there. As far as 3DR, they don't have nearly as many geofencing systems as DJI anyway. So I honestly don't know the answer if either of those companies have. But, you know, DJI owning 70-80% of the commercial market and the hobbyist market, you know, it's probably more important that they did it than anyone else.
true, and I would imagine, frankly, there's probably going to be people with green gear on and guns that are going to literally shoot drones down if they tried to fly over certain...
I hope not. I
don't
really
know.
hope not. You know, I hope the Americans in Homeland Security did the smart thing and brought the drone rifles, the rifles that are specifically made to just shoot out RF interference. Because what that does is it brings the drone back home to the operator. Number one, they can figure out who's flying it. And number two, you don't lose a drone out of the sky over people, and you don't put a stray bullet in the air to hit someone in the city. You know, you're in a really densely populated area. You can't just be shooting bullets up in the air. You
Of
know?
course not. You're right. I mean, I'm just making a point that
No
they're going to
death-
get those. They're going to get those drones out of the air somehow.
Yes,
I
and
would
no
think.
desk pops either, by the way. So
Okay.
you can't do that here at DroneU.
No?
It may look like the Wild West behind us, but no.
All right. Good to know.
Anyway, let's get into today's question, guys. Brought to you by the DroneU community, the 107 study guide, and a passion to succeed indefinitely.
Hello, Paul. Hello, Rob. Glenn at Aerial Camera Services in lovely Massachusetts, here once again with the question of the day. And that would be, I am training a camera operator right now to fly with me and my Inspire 1 Pro. I am having a hard time coming up with some sort of training ideas other than dolly roll pans and that kind of thing. Do you have suggestions on some sort of training schedule or training moves, regimens, anything like that could be helpful to better use our time instead of trying to make it up as we go along? I do not have a pirate suit. I can talk like a pirate. Arg, matey, string 'em up by the yard arms. All right. And I did have a pirate suit, but my last girlfriend took it away from me. I have no idea why. Thank you.
Yeah, you got to go all out or nothing. It's either I'm going to ask my question in the matey form.
That's right.
Or nothing. So I'm not sure that qualifies for the accent swag giveaway.
No. You got to ask the question in the accent. I mean, I appreciate the question, and we appreciate Glenn. He's a member. And
oh yeah, he's an awesome guy.
Awesome
we're not
dude,
trying
so.
to. We're not trying to get down
not
on
dissing Glenn.
No.
For the swag qualification,
To get the swag bag, which we just spent a lot of money on this morning. So
right. Anyways, good question.
Great question.
Communication. I would imagine there's going to be a lot more people kind of in this boat that are looking to have an operator as they start businesses and want to get better quality video and more sophisticated drones that they're having to fly, et cetera, et cetera. It's probably going to become a bigger issue.
Yes, I think so. Also, let's take this back one step, right? I think this comes down to a fundamental question of, can I get the same quality of shots as a one-person operator that I can get with a two-person operator? And I think the answer is you can get better shots with a one-person operator than a two-person operation.
Interesting.
The reason is that you just have more control. It's more, the timing is always better.
Instinctive, probably.
Very instinctive.
Mm-hmm.
And with, if you're flying an Inspire, for example, that whole app control, the app control to move the camera is so unbelievably useful. It's crazy, especially in high winds or situations where you're just not able to get the shot because you've got some wicked prop wash coming off the ground, or you've got some interference somewhere. Like recently I was flying near huge microwave towers for a client, and it was just impossible to get a GPS hold. It was just absolutely impossible. So, we're sitting there and I'm flying, there's no second operator, and I fly the flight path I want. And then as I'm holding the right stick to manipulate my flight path, I already set my altitude and elevation, so I'm good there. And I don't need to yaw at all because I'm going to use the app. So I'm just using my right thumb and the app. And I use the app. I click and hold blue circle, move in the direction I want the camera to go. And that I just did this week to get shots for a company, and it worked flawlessly.
Right. But in the defense of everybody else out there, it's taken you hours and hours and hours and hours to get to that point?
I was just going to get to that point. Yeah, I was just going to say, look, I'm not the example. I'm rather the outlier. It is possible to do that. I don't want people to be discouraged. It is absolutely possible. But also, Rob, there are some very important times when having a dual operation setup is absolutely necessary. You cannot do it with just a one operator setup, especially when you get into the bigger camera rigs. With our new partner, they're asking us to essentially get an M600 so we can fly a red for a few of the movies that are in town. And we've had multiple people who've said, hey, we're ready to do this. With those big solutions, the M600, the MX, you really need two people.
Right.
And also another situation where two people is going to be really helpful is if it is really windy outside, and you just want to let the bird float in the air while you're controlling it, and the second person is just manipulating the app. Because here's the thing, you can manipulate the camera via the controls, or you can have a second person manipulate the camera via the app, and I would train them to do both.
Sure. Well, and the reality is it's going to be safer in most cases to have dual operators.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So obviously with safety being a very big issue, it's one reason to go down that path.
Yes. And in regards to Part 107, a visual observer is not required, but it is highly recommended.
Yeah. Again, we want safety to be number one.
Definitely. So let's just go down the path that we're going to have a two-person operation. How can we best set up that team to work efficiently, succinctly, or have succinct communication, and really be able to get the shots that they want to get. Here's how I would do it. Number one is I would work on communication and defining the very terms that you're talking about. So, for example, I have met so many people in this industry who confuse pan and tilt. Pan is side-to-side motion, tilt is up and down.
Okay.
So you need to really make sure that when you say, hey, I want, a negative pan port side and tilt down. Okay, my motion's going to be like this. An angular motion down and turning left.
Okay.
So You don't have to use boat terms like port and starboard, but I'm just giving you an example of that. If you don't understand the term, you're not going to get what you want. So communication is key. Also, pre-flight inspections, making sure that you guys are doing everything together is really key, because if you go out to a job site and you're running late, but the other guy is there with the equipment and he forgets to plug in the PPM plug into the A3 because you guys like had a remote that needed a different battery, so you brought in a different remote and had to change that little receiver that plugs into the PPM port on the A3. If he doesn't know how to do that, you're screwed. And you just wasted more time. And if you waste more time on set, you're not coming back.
Right.
Period. There's no second chances. It's either you do it right or you don't come back.
So the assumption is that you're talking about those things and you're getting those things out of the way sort of early in the relationship, if you will, and making sure you're on the same page. But where the real value to the co-operator comes is in that ability to, it's kind of like, and I think we've talked about this in the past, but it's like the Montana to Rice connection. Quarterback to receiver, where the quarterback knows where to throw the ball before the receiver ever makes a cut. The receiver knows just when to make the cut to get to where the ball is going to be. They could know what each other's thinking almost. That's where you're trying to get.
Well, and I kind of have a relationship like that with Jason, because he and I have done some dual op flying before, and he and I work together a lot anyway, so we kind of have that mentality where it's like a telepathic type like communication.
Sure.
Which I know sounds really
scary is what that sounds like with you guys.
It's funny though, like if you've ever seen the two of us fly like on the Newport Beach stuff, I would be like, all right, I'm doing a low pass through the lifeguard tent to reveal the ocean. And he's like, okay, well, how slow or how fast do you want the tilt up to reveal the beach? And I'd be like, let's go cinematic slow so that we're starting 3 seconds after the shot begins and we're finishing the tilt as the shot ends. And he's like, okay. And I mean, like literally, and I'm like, oh, I got a little slight breeze left. I'm rolling right just a little. He's like, oh no, I already accounted for it. Like, I mean, like they literally, this is how we operate together. So I it's nice to have that, but it's taken years to develop.
Right. So what Glenn's looking for here is, what can I do? I don't know if this is the right way to say it necessarily, but to kind of speed up that process. Not that you can rush it, but what kind of exercises can they run? Are there particular patterns they should work on together? If you were starting, so take Jason out of the equation. If you were starting with a brand new person that you thought had a lot of potential and you wanted to train them to be your co-camera operator or your camera operator, what would you do?
I would write down all of the cinematic moves I know how to do or I want to accomplish. I would write down what is needed to accomplish that move. I would then practice those moves with that operator. In our advanced aerial videography course, we actually go through 10 cinematic moves, and you could use that as an example.
That's a great place to start, actually, Glenn, because in the membership you can get that and just start with that document and work on those together.
Yeah, totally. Also, this is our DroneU obstacle course. This is a great thing that you could run if you want to check it out. That you could run like this figure 8 section, the upper reveal row. The fact that we're talking about where our landing points, where our takeoff point is. That's really important, because if someone doesn't understand, okay, I get we're taking off over here and we're probably going to land back over there too. But if your second camera guy doesn't know the intricacies of your vehicle and what long-term damage can happen, like for example, I took Sam out, our intern. We're doing dual op stuff, and he's got the camera pointed straight at the ground while we're landing. That's a huge no-no. He's also got, the camera pointed in the opposite direction of the drone. It's not the same orientation. When you're landing, we teach people that your orientation, the drone's orientation, and the camera's orientation need to all be the same. That way, you're also supposed to land where you're facing into the wind. That way, if you have wind give your drone motion while you're landing, your brain knows if I roll right with my finger, the drone is going to roll right. Because if the drone is turned around and you get a gust of wind and now your drone is moving in an angular pattern, your motions are going to be opposite. So you're actually going to make the problem worse.
Sure.
So I've seen that happen to countless individuals. These little nuances, like tilting the camera up while coming down and landing for your second camera guy, you're huge. They're huge. That's why you need to go through a systematic approach, communication, understanding the definition of words, going through flight patterns, practicing the flight patterns, practicing if you were to go out on a job, what you were supposed to do, and then the next thing would be taking it to that subject tracking level where it's like, all right, we're moving on a fast approach to the car. We're going to hit the car on the port or on the starboard side. Once we go on the starboard side, we're then going to turn the camera down towards the car. I'm going to move the drone in front of the car, and we're going to elevate out in front of the car while you are tilting the camera down.
Piece of cake.
For a single operator, I could do that really easy.
Well, that's a pretty complex shot right there, but it would be something great to
That's a
practice.
shot I had to do for a car commercial.
I'm sure it is. But that doesn't make it any less complex. But back to the football
Just
analogy.
makes it practical, that's all.
Back to the football analogy. Football teams, heck, even around here, I can't imagine Texas, but even around here, the little guys, 10-year-olds, are practicing literally 3 hours a day, every day, and then playing on Saturday. My point is, you've got to spend that kind of time with your operator to really get things synced up.
Can I just say, if kids spent 3 to 4 hours on their homework daily, the average intelligence level of this country would skyrocket.
Maybe Trump wouldn't be
I'm sorry. Am I the only one that's thinking that right now? Like, oh my God, your kids spend 3 hours playing football?
Between football and video games is the reason we have Hillary and Trump as our nominees.
When people get more upset about how much error is in a football in a certain game than whether the fact that someone who wrote a book about Hillary just died in the most awkward, weird, set up, meticulous way possible, yes, there's definitely a problem. I'm sorry.
Our podcast just took a right turn, a really hard right turn. So,
well, okay.
anyways.
Anyway, if you want to get great politics information and have a laugh, there's a new podcast I've been listening to. It's called Fake the Nation. And they totally rip on everybody. It's just hilarious.
Cool.
If you want to turn the political theater and passionate anger into delightful
Laughter.
fun, yeah, that's a great way to do it.
Cynicism is funny.
Yes.
I suppose.
Oh, no, it's even better because it's like hosted by a girl who immigrated from the Middle East. And like, it's just hilarious.
She wants to go back. How do I get home?
No, it's just, it really is funny. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well,
Anyway.
I hope that helps Glenn.
yeah, I mean, also, Glenn is a member. So in there we have practice drills, the box drills, inverted box, banking box, figure eight, the DroneU training course materials in here. So if you want to mimic this course, you can. If you cannot see that image because you're listening in your car or on your headphones or at the gym, wherever you are listening, do know you can go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel and see this very image of this training course. It is very cool. We've taken a long time to really develop this into what it is today, and we're very happy because it includes the selfie challenge, the selfie door challenge.
What is an obstacle course without the selfie challenge?
The prop wash alley, the upper reveal row,
cool.
the orbit practice, which seems to be the most difficult for everyone. Proportional movements are difficult for people.
Yep.
Also, I've noticed if I have a large amount of caffeine, I cannot do an orbit move well.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, also there's obstacles in here. You have to go through a tunnel. Yeah, you have to go through a tunnel with your Inspire. Yeah, you have to go through a tunnel with your Phantom because it helps you understand spatial awareness. It also helps your camera operator understand, hey, if he's flying through here and he's focusing on the spatial movement of the drone in relation to the obstacle, I can be focusing on how to turn this into a cool shot. Like instead
Absolutely.
of looking forward, looking to the side and panning up and to the side as you're going through the tunnel, because that would be a sick shot, something no one has done before.
Sure.
As a drone pilot, your job is to look at what's out there and not just mimic it, try to make it better. I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, it's kind of going back to the whole idea of deliberate practice and pushing the envelope when you're practicing.
Absolutely.
Looking for new ways of sort of, creating new shots that maybe are unique.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Anyway, I think that is going to do it for us today. If you have a question, go to askdroneu.com. If you're interested in creating a successful, and I mean successfully perpetual, business with drones, you're going to want to check out the DroneU community. Why? Because you get all of our courses for one low monthly price. You get to be in a community with a bunch of people who absolutely love what they do, will help you lower your learning curve, and also turn you into, a really good pilot if you put in the time. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening in all the time. Our downloads have skyrocketed. We're
Thank you.
over 250,000 downloads. That's crazy to say. $250,000.
It is crazy. It's cool. It's fun.
Do you remember the first time we sat down to do a podcast?
Gosh, that was a long time ago.
I know, but think about where we are now and where we were then.
And it's because of you guys. It really is. And we appreciate it.
Yeah, and
really
Rob says that every episode because he means it. Yep. So as do I. Anyway, thank you guys. That's gonna do it for us today. My name is Paul,
and I'm Rob.
This is Ask DroneU.